Well, folks, how are you today? I guess you can't answer me, so I'll expect that you're doing well. So, had some interesting interactions over the weekend, and it got me thinking. I was doing some work around the house, and it got me thinking about the safeguards that are available to people that they don't realize are there. So here's what I mean by that. So, true confessions here. I actually am a person who is, well, I'm not scared of heights, but for some reason when I'm near them, I need a lot of security. Now that might change if I worked at heights all the time, but I don't. So when I experience them, I have to make sure I have a lot of security. So one of those, give an example of how that manifests in my life. If I go on my roof, and my roof doesn't have too steep a pitch, but it's pretty standard. If I go on my roof, even to do the most simple thing, and I guess it's just good practice, I need to have a rope. Around my waist, around the chimney, and yeah, if you talk to the safety guys, they'll say, yeah, rope, good idea. Now, of course, if you watch roofer guys, they wander around on the roof like crazy. Whether it's a good idea or not, they just and they can just deal with it because they're very comfortable with the danger or the insecurity. So another true confession of mine is that, and this is going to sound preposterous, but it is what it is. Whenever I go to a ravine, and I'm talking about the edge of the Elora Gorge, the Grand Canyon, Catherine's Canyon, any canyon, or the top of a building where like a skyscraper or something, there is actually an overwhelming desire in me to actually throw myself over the edge. I don't know what it is. It's like I actually have to hold on to something, and maybe it's some kind of weird phobia. I don't know. But I know that if I was in a situation where I had to work in those circumstances next to that edge or hang out by it, I would need a rope. I would have to rope myself off just to control the part of me which is not mental but is instinctual or rooted in fear. I don't know what it is, but I know I would have to do that. Would I have to do that forever? Well, probably not. If you've ever watched, construction workers walk around the girders of a high rise, or again, I use the roofing example, those fellows are very comfortable with danger, or at least they're competent to the point where they actually don't even perceive it as danger. And so they don't need the rope. Now, why I bring the rope up is they see in our society right now, there is actually a lot of fear around owning incorrect behavior. So, for example, in children will oftentimes misbehave, and well, not oftentimes, but on occasion, some more than others. They will misbehave, and either they'll be found out or they'll be disciplined or something like that. But at some point, that child will have to come with an apology, either one that the poor parent forces upon that child, or that the child chooses to embrace on their own, and that usually happens when there is a feeling of security in that child. The tragedy is some children don't have that security, and even when the parent forces them, says, "You better apologize or else," that apology is not necessarily real. It's actually creates a sense of anger in that child, which they then carry forward into their adulthood. We have a lot of hatred in our land right now for the leadership. It's not uncommon to drive down. I live in Canada. So it is not uncommon to drive down the highway to see the F. Trudeau, he's our leader. If you're watching this video in 2024, he is the current elected Prime Minister of Canada. F. Trudeau, generally the liberals are demonized. And it has a lot to do with the fact that there was a lot of draconian measures that came in over the pandemic. And there's been a lot of unfair treatment in the judicial system over things that really they shouldn't be as prosecuted, from a rational perspective. The things they're prosecuting should not be things they're prosecuting to the degree they are. And so again, there's a lot of animosity in the population, and I'm very interested to know what goes on in the halls of power as they think about how to manage the population. Because frankly, at the end of the day, I do believe it is just theater, but there's some people who believe it's legitimate. I'm not going to have that argument. But one thing I do know, and this is one thing that many people do not realize is available to them. It is a resource that is available to them. I know that if our Prime Minister got on the TV tomorrow and put out a speech that was like something like, hey guys, I know personally that there's been a lot of conflict in ideologies in the nation over the past year. I know that things have not been going, we've been in a lot of disagreement, and I know that my government has done things that have been not honorable, and they have gone beyond what we said we would do, and they have violated the trust of the nation based on certain rules that we agreed to when we got into power. I am very sure that if our leader got on the television, or any leader of any of these nations that's in turmoil, and just said, hey guys, I screwed up, let's make it better. I know for a fact that sure, people would be like, yes, you are, and blah, 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 we're going to come get you. But the power of forgiveness, people are dying to forgive people. Maybe dying is the wrong word. People are very interested in forgiving people if there's a level of humility that's present. And not just humility and recognition, but then follow through. But so often, especially with politicians, there's, if you look at the thing that's going on in America right now, all the incompetence of the Democratic leadership, they're behaving in a way like, what are you talking about? There's no incompetence. We're doing the best job we can, and it's anyone with a reasonable amount of intelligence can see the missteps, stumbling, and errors, which, and on one hand, I do believe it's kind of something that's planned to make people furious. But on the other hand, if it was just general incompetence and general foolishness, if there was a spirit of humility that stepped forward, I think a lot of people would be like, okay, we accept you recognize that you have dropped the ball in these different areas. Let's work in partnership to overcome that. And that's because all of those guys do not realize that there's a rope waiting for them to use. So, what do I mean by that? So the rope. So let's pretend that the Prime Minister hopped on TV and gave that speech, and I'm not going to tell you exactly what he should say right now in this thing, but between him and his cabinet and the judiciary, if there was some global, or not global, but Canada-wide recognition of a lot of the unfairities that they have indulged in, they would recognize that they would have the rope. They wouldn't be lynched the day after. There would be a combination of the goodwill of people, because, let's face it, Canadians are touted as the most polite people on the planet. But regardless, regardless of the F. Trudeau bumper stickers on the highway. But they're touted as the most polite people on the planet, and these guys could tie the rope of goodwill around them. They could make those steps, and yes, it's very possible they would lose their jobs. It's very possible that it'd say, okay, we're going to call an election, and maybe you'll believe us, maybe you won't. But the reality at the end of the day is that these occupations are populated with people that, you know, I mean, let's face it, narcissistic personalities are drawn to politics because they give these people a sense of pride, and they want to feel special. You know, don't take my word for it. Google it. The top professions of narcissists is politicians, the clergy, medicine, and the heads of Fortune 500 companies, and your local Karen. But that's another story. But regardless of their mindset, because again, narcissism is, I mean, there is healthy narcissism. We can talk about that some other time. It's sort of a buzzword these days. But one of the aspects of it is ignoring when you've done something wrong. And the tragedy is that in many cases, when you've done something wrong to someone, if you simply come to them and say, hey, you know, you may actually have a recognition that you've done something wrong. You may have it deep in your spirit. You may actually have done something wrong, more wrong than they even know about. And if you took this rope, tied it around your waist, you know, maybe under your arms, the rope of goodwill, because if you know those people that you're interacting with, you know, look at the person's life. If there's someone who's conciliatory, gives goodwill to people, is kind, all that kind of stuff, there's a very real possibility that this rope is real. And it's something that you can use as you walk around the roof of that recognition of error, or when you're standing too close to the edge. Now, it's important to know, though, however, is that this rope is, it can be used to protect you, but it can also be used to hang you. Now, here's what I mean by that. So let's pretend you hang this rope of goodwill around you, and you approach that person and you say, yep, I have done something terrible. And maybe you even spell it out. I have done something terrible and I feel terrible for it, and I want to repair our relationship. The other side of that is that if you're wearing this rope, in that moment, this person will, if they're decent, and I mean, you know, always ask yourself what's the worst that could happen. The worst that could happen in many situations where you have that conversation is they say, thanks, have a nice life. That's the worst that can happen. But if your modus operandi for having that conversation, excuse me, is to, you know, restore the communication, restore the relationship to whatever capacity you could, then they will take this rope. They will take this rope from, let's pretend you got the other end of this rope tied to, I don't know, something heavy in your life, like just, let's say you've got it tied to your old life. You've got it tied to the old way you can be, because you can go back. Like, let's pretend Trudeau hopped on and he did that speech where he said, yeah, we're terrible and we did this, that, and the other thing. Even if he made that speech, he could always go back to being the insipid, and what some people would argue, tyrannical person that he is. He could do that. It wouldn't affect his ratings at all. But if he takes this rope, it's attached to his old life, and then he has that speech, and then Canadians go, oh, okay, what's it? He actually takes the other end of the rope and he gives it to them. He gives it to them and he says, use this rope to hold me accountable. And that is why when you choose to use that, you choose to take that accountability, the accountability has to be more than just the words you're going to say in that moment. The accountability then has to become part of who you are. You have to forgive me, there's a couple mosquitoes here in my yard. It's twilight. And so, like I said, you can either use this rope the rope will initially be used to protect you, or it it will be used to hang you. Because again, if you're in that relationship, if you hand this other end to the person you're apologizing to, you're then making an agreement. You're making an agreement that all the old garbage is over. You're making an agreement that when similar circumstances present themselves again, you're going to choose the honorable path that honors your relationship, because your relationship is its own creation. The relationship you have with everyone in your life, you can either grow it and nurture it, or you can have a one-side relationship where, well, I guess at the end of the day, it's slowly dying, because you can't have a relationship requires two people, and if you've got a 70-30 relationship, whether you believe it or not, it is dying. And so you need to, the rope will be used to hold you in that relationship. Now, is that a terrible thing? Well, I don't know about you, but when you're hanging off the side of a building and you know that someone strong is holding on to the other end of the rope, you're very happy that's the case. And once again, there's that transition period where you're deciding, after you've made that apology, if you can say, okay, you get the feedback from who you've apologized to, and then you say, okay, here it is. Take the rope and hold me. Hold me accountable. Hold me safely, because that's part of it. Hold me safely. We'll use this to hold us together and make things better. So yeah, pretty simple. Just grab the rope. Hey guys, thanks a lot for watching the video today. I appreciate the engagement. If you like the ideas I put out, feel free to leave a comment. You can like it. I appreciate the likes. Hey, dislike it if you want to. I think that's your choice. Just sharing these good ideas. If you have ideas you'd like me to talk about, or maybe some refinements that we could put in future videos, that's fine. It's all part of this experience we're having together, where we're choosing to make life better for everybody and improve our thinking. Maybe you know someone who has been indulging in destructive thinking, and they might appreciate the words from a bearded dude like me. Or maybe something you're experiencing yourself. I know there's been plenty of people in my life that I would like if they watched this video and got something out of it. And I've had plenty of people who have told me that they've directed them to the same types of situations in their life. And I'm very happy to hear about that. So anyway, guys, thanks so much. And I'll see you in the next one.